ready for a deep dive. Today we're looking at someone you might not expect. A mystery novelist with a surprising passion. Christian dogma.
Oh, intriguing.
Yeah, we're talking about Dorothy L Sayers, creator of the brilliant detective Lord Peter Wimsey, but also a deep theological thinker.
Right. She was more than just mysteries.
We're going into her essays, Creed or Chaos, plus some other writings she did.
That's a title that grabs you for sure.
Right. Sayers really pushes back on this idea of Christianity being boring, irrelevant, especially when it comes to dogma.
Which is funny because dogma makes people think rules, not excitement.
Exactly. But not for Sayers. That's where this deep dive comes in. Why she saw dogma as, well, anything but dull.
She was all about shaking people up, getting them out of that lukewarm faith, seeing the drama in these old ideas.
She really did. And for anyone listening who hasn't read her yet, she does not hold back.
Oh no, she's so sharp.
Like there's this line, and I'm quoting here, "The dogma is the drama." Just puts it right out there.
No mincing words with Sayers.
No kidding, she's not talking about rules. She means the core of the biggest story ever told.
And that if you miss that story, you've missed the whole point of Christianity.
And she really wanted to make sure you got it, too, which is where I think that satirical exam on Christianity comes in.
Oh, that's a classic. So witty.
She nails the misconceptions people had, even back then, probably even more so now.
Like, for example, she asks, what does the church think of God the Father?
Oh, I love this one.
And the answer, dripping with irony, is, He is omnipotent and holy. He created the world and imposed on man conditions impossible of fulfillment. He is very angry if these are not carried out.
You can almost hear her saying it, can't you?
With a twinkle in her eye, I'd imagine.
Oh, totally. But she's spot on. We've all met that caricature of God, right? Waiting to see us mess up.
It's so common, and she cuts right through it.
But here's the thing. She's not making fun of faith itself.
No, it's more about how people distort the core idea.
Exactly. It's like, come on, let's go deeper than that.
Deeper than the surface, which so many people get stuck on.
And you know what else? Sayers wasn't afraid of a little heresy.
She had a good point about that. Questioning is natural.
Totally. She even says it's part of really grappling with faith, not just blindly accepting.
Which is brave to say, even now, but she meant it. These heresies weren't just ancient arguments.
Right. There are everyday struggles, too, trying to make sense of it all.
Like she talks about misunderstandings of the Trinity or how Christ's suffering fits in, stuff people still wrestle with.
Big questions, right? Like how do we understand God's suffering? It's the stuff of life, really.
But then she hits you with this whole other thing, the 7 deadly sins, but with a twist.
Oh yeah, this is where it gets really interesting.
Right. She says, modern society, we kind of celebrate what the church calls sin, especially the sneaky ones.
The ones that have been totally rebranded, right? Like they're just how the world works now.
Exactly. Avarice, envy, they're so normal, you forget they're supposed to be bad.
We're swimming in them, don't even see the water.
And Sayers wants us to notice because these respectable sins, they're shaping our values whether we realize it or not.
Okay, so let's break it down because she does these amazing deep dives on each one. Like gluttony, it's not just about eating too much anymore.
Well, no, she takes it way beyond that.
Right. It's consumerism, this need for more that fuels like our whole system.
All the advertising, it's all tapping into that. She even talks about rationing during the war.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, like suddenly that high standard of living was put to the test, you know?
Makes you think what's really necessary versus what we're told we need.
Totally. And then there's avarice or covetousness, but Sayers calls it enterprise. So clever.
It's that drive for profit no matter what, and not just the super rich either.
Right. It's the everyday person dreaming of getting rich quick, that lottery mentality.
The allure of easy money is strong.
Oh, absolutely. And then, this is a good one, envy. She talks about the dangers of debunking.
Ooh, that's so relevant now. What does she mean by that?
Well, she says, when we tear down hypocrisy, which is good, sometimes we wreck true values too, by accident.
Can you give an example? I feel like that happens a lot.
Like charitable giving versus, say, the government providing for people.
Okay, I see where you're going with this.
On the surface, same goal, right, helping those in need.
But the why is different.
Exactly. One's given freely, the other's an obligation. Sayers says the motivation matters.
It's like it loses that heart, that generosity, when it's forced.
And that gets to her whole point. It's not just what we do, but why we do it.
Which takes us to pride, the root of all sin, she says. That wanting to be like God, judging everything.
She links that to utopias, that human perfection thing, thinking we have all the answers.
Which hasn't worked out so well so far.
Not so much, and it's a good lesson. We need humility. Life's messy.
So easy to forget that. But here's where Sayers always gets me. she doesn't leave us with doom and gloom.
No, there's always hope with her.
She talks about work, not just for money or status, but as creation, serving something bigger.
Which is a huge question for everyone. How do you view your work? Chore or calling?
That's resonating with a lot of people now, all this change in the workplace.
She really makes you think about the value of work, how we pay people, how we see leisure time. It's all connected.
It's deeper than just our job title. It's like, what's the point of it all?
Exactly. She even says we should be willing to sacrifice comfort, our standard of living, for work that matters.
Wow, that's kind of radical, especially now when everyone's about comfort.
It is, isn't it? But what if we valued work for its own sake, its contribution? How would that change things?
Man, that would be a different world. It really makes you stop and think, are we living the way we claim to believe in?
It's that challenge, yeah. Sayers always brings you back to action, not just ideas.
And it's hopeful, like we have a choice in all this, what we value, how we spend our time.
It's not about being passive. We can shape the world around us, even in small ways.
And she really walked the walk, This wasn't just theory for Sayers. She lived it.
Oh, absolutely. Both as a writer and a believer, she was engaged with the world, not hiding from it.
Which I think is why it hits so hard. It's not some ivory tower philosophy. It's meant for the messy here and now.
Exactly. And she'd want us to do the same. Grapple with these big questions, find meaning in our work, live out our faith.
Bring it all together, the spiritual and the everyday. Not be afraid of the hard stuff.
Because that's where the real growth happens, right? And she reminds us Christianity, it's not about escaping the world.
It's about changing it.
Yeah, finding that spark, that divine potential in ourselves, our communities, even our work, like you were saying.
So here we are, end of our deep dive into Dorothy L Sayers. And I gotta say, her message is, if anything, even more relevant now.
Oh, 100%. She makes you confront the big stuff.
The stuff that really matters, yeah.
Like, what do I actually believe? Not just on paper, but deep down. What are my values?
And the kicker, right? Are we living those values day in and day out?
It's easy to say the words, harder to put them into practice.
Way harder. But like Sayers said, if our system's all about this, this gluttony, this more, what do we do about it?
Right. As individuals, it can feel small, but those choices add up.
What we buy, how much, how we work, why we work.
Finding that balance, ambition, and contentment, maybe that's part of it. Like Sayers said, rediscovering the joy of work itself.
Not just the outcome, but the doing, the creating, yeah.
And that our value doesn't come from all that stuff, the consuming, the producing.
It's radical, but we need to hear it, probably more than ever now.
So, as you go about your week, think about that. Where's the joy in your work? Could you consume less, but more intentionally? And maybe embrace a little of that Sayers spirit, that divine discontent that pushes us to want better.
To do better, yeah. It's a challenge, for sure, but a good one. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive, everyone.